What up? We spent the last several days testing out different farm strats and we've landed on one that really works. It creates tons of currency and crafting bases, some valuable abyss omens, some valuable uniques, and it's also dangerous. There's nothing like a little danger to keep things fun. So let's get right into it, but before we do, help us out with that YouTube busy work. Like, subscribe, and hype this video if you're on mobile. These all tell YouTube to show our content to more people, which helps us keep doing this. Alright, so what are we doing? We are doing Delirium Abyss and a third thing. We'll talk about that a bit more once we get to tablets. Delhi got a pretty significant rework in patch 0.4, and it is even better than we had hoped. The fog no longer blocks your vision of ground effects, or really your vision of anything, which is fantastic. Delirium mirrors are much more rewarding than they were before, and the passive tree has a bunch of really good bonuses now, including one that gives 10% more loot from all rare monsters. So why run Delirium mirrors? Delirium grants monsters and maps increased item rarity, which basically means they drop better stuff. It also allows Delirium emotions and Simulacrum splinters to drop. These can both be pretty valuable. On top of that, Delirium stacks with other League mechanics that are already valuable themselves, like Abyss and Breach. It's a really powerful multiplier to map rewards. What's the downside? Delirium mirrors make everything harder as you move away from the starting point, giving monsters up to 80% damage reduction at 100% deliriousness, so it's a multiplier to difficulty as well. Classic GGG risk-reward design. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Alright, so let's talk a little bit about map rolling. Delirium emotions were removed as a map juicing mechanic, which, despite some complaints about that being the end of juicing or whatever, just simply hasn't been the case. Monsters are dropping more stuff in maps than they were in previous leagues. Even at the highest difficulty levels achievable, they are still just dropping more stuff, and you don't have to have permanent deliriousness on the maps. You're able to just do Delirium mirrors, and that kind of feels better. It feels a bit more like a real mechanic. So here's how we roll maps. Alchemy, Exalt twice. If you're playing a build where you have to look at map mods, sorry, Poison Pathfinder is definitely able to run every single map mod possible, and then if you want to corrupt the maps and hope they either roll to tier 16 or to 8 modifiers, that's cool too. Neither of these did. I think they just stayed the same, but this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, yep, 8 modifiers. That's going to be more valuable than a 6 mod map, but that's pretty much it, right? Alch, double Exalt, go. Corrupt it if you want. If you want to make your maps a little bit more rewarding, you can use Omens of Chaotic Rarity. I have one right here. Put it in your inventory, right-click it, let's find a map that actually has some bad rolls. Here we go, 18% item rarity, that's kind of bad. Now all of the map mods give item rarity, and yeah, that's pretty good. We'll just go ahead and corrupt that and hope it rolls up to 8 mods. It actually did, lucky us. So there you go. That's like the absolute maximum way to kind of juice up a map to the pinnacle of reward. This is a pretty good looking map. Kind of can't wait to get into it. All right, now let's talk about tablets. So we were using Delirium and Abyss. Those are the two mechanics that we're kind of locked in on. And Delirium, unlike Abyss, has some like very specific suffix modifiers that we want. So let's just actually kind of take a look at the modifiers on PoE2 DB. And the thing that we're really looking for on all of our prefixes is rarity of items found in the map, rare monsters found in the map. Map has increased number of rare monsters, and monsters have increased effectiveness. We can only have 2 mods by default, or 2 prefixes, 4 mods. Once you've killed Arbiter of Ash one time, you'll be able to roll all of your tablets up to rare. So 2 prefixes, and those are pretty much the 3 prefixes that we're trying to get. Rarity, rare monsters are the 2 best, but then if you get effectiveness, that's also really good too. It basically just boils down to increased quantity in XP. You do have to do some more damage to the monsters, they'll have some more life. Doesn't really wind up being a huge deal. Now as for Abyss tablets, the suffix modifiers are basically all really good. There are kind of 2 that stand out as being a little bit better, and that would be map contains an additional abyss, and map has a chance to have up to 4 additional abysses. These are just big multipliers, right? You just get extra abysses. It adds a bunch more stuff, more than any of the others do, but all the rest of them are pretty good. Potentially there's some overlap, like this 4 abyss modifier when it procs, and this one difficulty and reward for each closed pit. Maybe that could be useful. Whatever. They're all pretty good. Delirium, on the other hand, is a bit more of a mixed bag. So because of the way that we're kind of setting this up and trying to do the full map with deliriousness affecting everything in the map, including the map boss, getting the slaying a rare monster in the map pauses the timer modifier is really, really valuable. The thing about getting simulacrum splinters is that the main source of them really is the bosses, the unique bosses. So like this modifier right here, more likely to spawn unique bosses, is also super awesome. And I actually have the tablet that I've been playing with for the last, I guess, 8 maps here that has both of those suffixes, 5 seconds of pausing the timer, 20% chance or more likely to spawn the bosses. Like, this is an awesome set of suffixes. It has rarity and effectiveness on the prefixes. It's an awesome tablet, right? Some of these other ones are not nearly as good. Increased pack size, faster delirium scaling, those are not as good. Fracturing mirrors is okay, but like getting the fog to last longer, dissipate slower, or especially lasting longer when you kill rares, those are the really, really big, juicy suffixes that you're going for. Not every tablet's gonna be perfect. It's okay if they're not all perfect, but like that's the ideal one. One of these different suffix modifiers that makes the delirium last longer will make it so that it's a lot easier to do the whole map with delirium on it. Then we have our third tablet, and we kind of have 3 options. You can do Breach. We played around with that for a while, and honestly found it a little underwhelming. This is not the greatest Breach tablet in the world, rare monsters with an XP gain. And then the thing is that a lot of the Breach suffixes aren't like, they're not a huge deal. This one actually is pretty decent. 2 additional rare monsters in the Breach, like, you know, that's cool. Breach has the positive of like throwing currency at you very quickly, but it doesn't really have any sort of like other super great synergies, doesn't synergize with Abyss at all, and yeah, it's just kind of simple. You kill the guys and then they're dead, and maybe they drop stuff and maybe they don't. Precursor tablets are definitely the one that was more impressive to us just in testing. Precursor tablets are always good because they add irradiated to the map, which means they increase the zone level by 1. Basically, they turn tier 15s into tier 16s, turn tier 16s into tier 17s. This makes monsters drop more items at the cost of making them tankier and more dangerous. It's a good trade, and that's really the reason you want to run precursor tablets in pretty much every single high level setup that you're doing. Your third alternative is Overseer tablets. Overseer tablets are really valuable because they empower the map boss, and empowered map bosses drop massive amounts of loot. They are harder, they do more damage, and they are tankier, so they're not to be taken lightly, but if you're able to kill them consistently, they are worth the effort. They can drop very high value uniques. I just got a pair of Plague Fingers off of one right before recording this, so that felt pretty good. And there are also some really valuable suffix modifiers on Overseer tablets, such as quantity of items dropped by map bosses and rarity of items dropped by map bosses. If you can get multiple of these overlapping with good prefixes like rarity of items found in the map or number of rare monsters found in the map, this is going to have a really powerful multiplicative effect on the amount of stuff that drops in your map and from those map bosses specifically. So ultimately, what do we recommend? Abyss, Delirium, and Precursor seems like the best trifecta, with Overseer being a pretty good alternative, and then Breach maybe being the 3rd place finisher here. Like, it was actually a little disappointing that Breach was just not as good. It's kind of slower than just everything being tankier and more dangerous, but it does have the advantage of not actually being as dangerous throughout the entire map as Precursor or, during the boss fight as the Overseer tablets. Alright, now let's take a look at the passive tree, and so this is the Atlas passive tree that we are using. The setup here in the bottom left-hand side of the tree is sort of a merger of the 2 different strategies that we played around with before, like a full map mod effect juicing setup. We're not quite doing that because we have 9% Waystone map mod effect, whatever, over here that we could take that we are kind of skipping on, specifically to get magic monster bonuses, and we'll kind of talk about that in a second when we get to the Delirium tree. But having played around with the standard juicing setup and then this setup, this feels a little bit better for what we're trying to do here. So other than that, we're still taking like a bunch of map mod effect over here. We're taking Unstable Energies and Grueling Journey and Enigmatic Intensification, all the usual stuff there. Now the Delirium tree got a pretty significant rework in this patch, and most of the bonuses just don't work the way they did before at all. There are a few that still work very similarly, like They're Coming to Get You still gives you that Delirium Mirror pausing when you kill rare monsters, and also makes more bosses spawn in the map, or makes it more likely for Kostas and Omniphobia to show up, and that's good. Those guys are worth a bunch of simulacrum splinters, so this is just a very good node. The mirrors just gives you more fracturing mirrors in your maps, means more monsters being spawned by Delirium, which is helpful. And then the two things that are really like standing out as being super, super cool are It's Not Real and Get Out of My Head. It's Not Real is probably the first one you want to take. It makes it so that rare monsters will always have Delirium demons around, like basically just the skills that rare monsters will sometimes use when they're delirious. Now they'll always use them, but then they get 10% quantity of items and 30% XP. Huge bonus. Awesome. You want this ASAP. This is like one of the main reasons to run Delirium mirrors in the current state of the game. Then Get Out of My Head is kind of the main reason that we're taking those magic modifiers, magic monster mods down here on the bottom left side of the tree, and that's because it gives a 25% chance for an additional modifier to all of the magic monsters that are in your maps, and then if they have 2 modifiers, they get 100% increased rarity, which is insane. This is very, very strong. So in order to like feel like we're able to kind of stay in the Delirium and like really clear everything out, more or less full clear all the maps, we do need like one skill that has some like pausing or timer duration increase in it, and that's what we're getting out of They're Coming to Get You. The alternative would be you can't just wake up from this one. This one's like a little bit more consistent, but in the way that we're setting up maps with lots of rare monsters in it, kind of winds up not being as good as They're Coming to Get You. And then the other side of the tree just isn't quite as good as we had hoped. Like, I'm Not Afraid of You, you know, it doesn't really do anything to make the Delirium bosses spawn more frequently, and Delirium bosses basically die instantly. They're like less strong than rare monsters, so scaling up their life doesn't do anything. So getting more simulacrum splinters from them is cool, but it's just not that consistent. It's kind of the same issue as Would You Like to See My Face? Like, it seems like it gives you a lot more simulacrum splinters, but because it doesn't work with any of the splinters that come from bosses, it actually doesn't really wind up being that much. It's like a couple splinters a map, and the difficulty that comes from this node is very high. And so then we've saved the most interesting one for last, and that would be Isn't It Tempting? What this does is it makes it so that the currency that Delirium monsters in your maps, only Delirium monsters, so the monsters that are specifically spawned by Delirium, not just regular monsters that would have been in the map, will instead be stolen by the map boss, and then if you were able to kill the map boss before deliriousness fades, before the Delirium mirror effect is gone from the map, it has a 20% chance to duplicate each of the currency items. So having played around with this for like a while, we did some maps with this, it seemed like it was going to be awesome, like 20% more currency. It wound up being nowhere close, and it was kind of annoying getting to some of the bosses in these PoE 2 maps. Some of the time it was just like not possible to get there in time. Or you do a map that has like the Crowbell in it where you got there and then unfortunately it's like a 2-minute map boss, and so it just ended before you could kill it even though you were phasing it instantly. This actually wound up being a very frustrating node that just did not produce as much currency and as many good rare drops as Get Out of My Head, just by having a bunch more magic monsters in the map. So that's kind of annoying because this is a modifier, this idea of like the boss duplicating a bunch of currency. That's really cool, but it also isn't like boss rush because you want to kill as much stuff as possible before you get the boss. So this just didn't really work very well, which is a little disappointing. It's something we'll probably come back to and play around with in the future. Maybe this will wind up working better with some other like different types of setups, but at least in our testing here during the first week, it was kind of a bummer, and everything else associated with Delirium has been pretty awesome. As for Abyss, we're doing the standard setup here of taking Stir the Swarm first, and then just looping around the left-hand side and taking From Out of the Pit as our option in the choice node at the top of the tree. Then it's kind of up to you how you spec everything else. You can take all of the boss nodes. You know, something that's a little funky about this Organized Forces is that at last testing, this actually didn't work with the tablet. For whatever reason, this only worked with the boss nodes themselves, like ones that actually have a powerful boss on the minimap. Maybe this has been changed or this bug has been fixed, but, you know, I haven't tested it in the last like 10 minutes, but yeah, this is something that was like a little funky about the Overseer tablet nodes, because ideally you would just use those in place of irradiated tablets 100% of the time, but it wasn't working in testing, which is pretty unfortunate, and honestly, maybe you'd be better served by just specking out of this and specking into one of these other bonuses as well, but none of them are really that great. I guess you could get an additional shrine. Again, depending on when you're watching this could have been fixed. You know, hopefully it is. And then if that is the case, then you kind of are better off just using Overseer tablets, because then you would get the benefit of both irradiated and an Overseer tablet instead of only using an irradiated tablet. But until that point, irradiated tablets definitely seem like they're better. We've gotten some flack recently about asking questions, but we're just curious people. We like to know things. It's something to look forward to in the comments section other than people complaining about GGG. So it's question time, as usual, and in the spirit of negativity, what's the worst food you've had this year? I had some expired Pepsi, and I didn't know soda could be that disgusting. Let us know about your bad experiences. Alright, that's it. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And finally, thank you to all of our channel members. If you want to support us and help us make more PoE content, consider becoming a channel member as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.